But yeah, we'll see how this conversation goes. Can I explain the left side? Absolutely. If you wanna ask me, is that if that's what you wanted to ask up here as
That,
well.
yeah, that was what I wanted to ask.
So I was thinking that, and this comes from the language comes from this other another video that I watched. And I think that the framing was useful, so I stole it.
Okay.
And like the reason why I use the word ego is because I think that it has to do with like taking an issue kind of with moralizing things and taking things like very, very personally. And I think that this kind of is the thing that gets in the way of the left's ability to communicate to one another.
Do you
Um,
mean, I may be
yeah.
way off base here, but do
Okay.
you mean that like a white savior complex? Like that kind of like morality, ego, like I'm doing the
Sure.
right thing, I'm being
Sure. Yes.
good.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Like
I'm
as
doing the right
like could
thing.
be like an example, right?
Yeah. Like
Okay.
for example, like even for example, like I have to cut off my Trump friends because it's the right thing to
Yeah.
do. It's morally the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes, perhaps some situations, maybe, but I
Hmm.
think that blanketing those types of things, I think that life is way too complicated to say stuff like that. And if you're at
Yeah.
a point where you just say stuff like that, maybe blanket, I'm like, interesting.
Like there is nuance.
Yeah.
I agree
Um,
with you.
and like, and like, for example, if you remove like all compassion, like for example, you say like every Trump voter just did that because they hate themselves and they hate minorities. I'm
Hmm.
like, interesting thought. Interesting thought. And I see how you could get there. But have you like spoken to people? And
So
like
my
it sounds like you have not talked to anyone when people say stuff like that.
yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
you. My
that's what I that's yeah.
brother-in-law, a few maybe like 10 years ago, before like COVID, before we all were like, yay, socialism, when it was like a dirty word to be
Yeah.
Marxist or communist, my brother-in-law was in the Air Force and he was um why would we ever want that sort of system? Like it's so bad, it's so evil, it's so wrong, whatever. And instead of blowing him off, like I can't reason with this person because they think so differently from me. Like we had a step by step like conversation about it without like I guess bitching at each other. And I changed his mind and now he believes the same way I believe.
Hmm.
And if I had just been like this idiot like doesn't there's no way I can explain this to this guy and just given up, then I don't think any progress would have been made.
Exactly. That's kind of like that's I think you're right on the money. Like being able to slow down for a second and like yeah, being able to slow down for a second and like talk to another person gives you a much larger chance of, for example, like having people maybe on like on your side if you're trying
Yeah.
to, because politics is a lot
Yeah.
about convincing people.
Right.
So if you
Yeah.
want people on your side, being a dick to them is not going to help.
Exactly.
And if people have been a dick to you your whole life, I'm going to just say I don't think that gives you the right to just be a dick back to everyone else. I mean, maybe it does give you the right to do it, but like, don't be surprised if people don't like it and treat you like you're treating them like shit. So
I agree with you.
that's where I'm at. You can do it. You have the freedom to do it, but don't be surprised. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go clean my closet, but stay on your live.
Have a good one.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for the questions and stuff.
Good seeing you.
You as well. Yeah. So all right. Let's go through some of the questions and thoughts that other the peoples have had. The left is just crazy. Maybe crazy is good. I think a lot of things. Yeah, I'll stop there. I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you, but I just don't think that it's a bad thing. Like if we're like, hey guys, and like for example, I'm like, because for example, if you're like, I'm like, give people housing, you're like, that's fucking crazy. I'm like, bet, yeah, it's crazy, but I think it's a good idea still. Like I agree with you on that point. You should have said this that some of a purity. Wait, you should have said that some of a purity thing going on. I'm not sure what that means. The right has an empathy problem. Um, Wait, the right does not have an empathy problem. The left has good intentions, but their solutions are bad. I disagree. I would say I disagree with, from my personal perspective of my little corner of the world that I've experienced. You know what I mean? Um, and it kind of comes from a place of like, where like let's take immigration for example. I think that I think that immigration, saying that the solution to all immigration is to like cut all immigrants off, like treat them as second class people generally, make them feel really bad, like things like that. If they're like, that's better because then we'll stop people from coming into our country, and that's good. But then if you're like, but what are the implications of the people who are here? And for example, if you're like, I don't like seeing homeless people on the street, but then you like pull out like all the protections and provisions for people who are in poverty, and then like the number of home people increases. You notice how like not using your empathy, like using, and I would say like I don't think even at that point it's just your brain. I think that it is being able to be empathetic, to be able to kind of sit and kind of think about how will this impact people in the long run. And if you're like negatively, maybe you're like, maybe we could like not do this. Like, and I think that's where I'm coming from on that perspective, where we're kind of taking like maybe uh even like projected, or the idea of what is that called, economic booms, when it comes like at the expense of like immigrants. Like for me, I'm not thinking that that's like worth it, but other people are like, I think it's pretty good. But well, well, um, yeah. See, that's a lot to ask. Yeah, yeah. See, where are they supposed to go? That's what I mean. Um, I have a yeah, I have frustrating thing. Um, Stop it, Birdie. That would have been really, really funny. Republicans give way more charity than Democrats. Is that? I'm actually not sure if that's what that's on that. Okay, I will do that in when I if I do this background again. Um, oh, and then someone said the right. No, no, no. Democrats are too fascist and Republicans are too Zionist. I think that's narrow. Sure. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like that's why I say narrow. It's like narrow to like this, maybe like anyway. Yeah, maybe like recent years and stuff. But those are, I think the problems are larger than that. And we have an obsession with punishment and seeing things in a rigid binary. I would agree. Each have pros and cons, so choose the best of two evils. Would I? I mean, fair. I'm not someone who's like married to the idea of like being on either side. People can be independent. Um, yeah, and also I've just life has been more and more, things are very confusing. You know what I mean? That's why I even say the left and the right, because I'm not trying to make this necessarily about like political parties necessarily. Maybe yeah, maybe even more ideas, concepts generally, but um okay, so yeah. And I would also say like, so this person Willow is saying like Democrats are not left wing, and which I totally get. And but also like maybe people need to be better educated about what this stuff means, because I feel like if you asked a Democrat, they probably would say that they were on the left of things. Maybe for example, like you would say that they are on the left of some of those Republicans, and I'm like, okay, for sure, sure. Um, but yeah, ideological values are parametrically associated with empathetic. Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. Like I said, ideology seems to very much impact people's ability to kind of, I don't know what and why they do things. For example, I would also say, I'm trying to think. Um, yeah, but a lot of this, I was gonna say some stuff, but I'm like, a lot of it is just a little. I was gonna say too much from a fact opinion, but it's very opinion based. I need to reorganize that sentence. Okay, the right really isn't right anymore. They're wrong. That's funny. 95% of Democrats believe liberals are more charitable. Thank you so much, Anima. That's what I mean. I was like, that's an interesting thought to say that. I guess because like there, yeah, and like how do you rate that? Is like the number of people, or is like the amount of money? I'm also curious about that. Okay. Hello.
Hello. I just have a question. You say the right doesn't have any empathy. We're over here trying to save lives. Trying to save lives.
I did not say the right doesn't have any empathy. I said it has an empathy problem, which I think is
Problem.
different. Which
Can
I
you
mean,
go
like,
further into that?
absolutely. So, like I mentioned, with certain types of situations where they might be like, I am not, like, I would rather, like take away protections from like the disabled people, or not, maybe not the disabled. I'll use the immigrants because I feel like that's more accurate and like very pertinent to the time. Like I'd rather take protections away from immigrants for the idea of like strengthening the safety of America generally, when like that doesn't necessarily take the like not necessarily just feeling the livelihood and like success of like the immigrants when you're making that decision. Like they kind of would rather just like I don't know they prefer the idea of safety or the over the actual help and support of the lives of real people. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but like,
Okay.
we need. I mean, I agree, but we need them to do the legal way. We can't just have them bouncing in because a lot of them are bad. A lot of them are bad. Not gonna, like if they do it the
Do you have
legal
like a
way, go do
percentage?
the
Like, do you
right
have like a
way.
percentage?
I mean, I don't got the number on top of my head right now, but if you can look around. There's some bad things happen at the border.
And I mean, like, for example, if like you just came from a strange place and like didn't have any money or food, like you might steal something. Yeah,
Yeah, but you would
shocking.
understand some get back from the place that you're trying to jump into illegally.
No, I understand. Like, I understand the issue,
I can
and like
understand being in a shit place, but you got to do it the right way. It may take time, but like you can't just do it the wrong way, and then you're really gonna be fucked.
also, I think that once again, this is like people also not necessarily understanding like the process is complicated. Like applying for asylum is complicated, and it takes a while. And while that process is happening, rather than saying let's just kind of screw these people over because they might be bad, like
Well, I have
you
a
know what I
question.
mean?
What's your thoughts on Poland? What's your thoughts on their border?
The Polish border.
Yeah.
I am not educated that much on the Polish border, so I don't think I
No.
could.
Okay. I won't go there then. I won't go there. Do you know what they do over there?
What do they do?
They shoot to kill over there. Do they have an immigration issue over there?
Well, likely not, but also I don't know. Like America, like we like people can legally ask for asylum in America.
They
I
can,
don't know if
but
that's
most
true in
of them
Poland.
don't. Most of them just jump in.
You,
They take vacated homes. They do crazy shit. I've seen some crazy shit.
yeah, and
You
I
just
guess
got to
like
do it
one
the
thing.
right way. I'm not saying you can't come in. You just got to do it the right way.
So this is why I just was using this as an example. One example of I think people like, for example, even kind of being blinded by legalities over like humanity, like people's humanity. You know what I mean? Like because
So,
you
I
did something
mean,
bad, you don't deserve any help. You know what I mean? Like those ideas too, I think are also not helpful. We're not looking at people as people. We're not seeing their entirety and trying to help them as a person. Because I'm thinking like we help people as people, from the bottom up. We support the little guy, and then that way we support our community. We support our society. We're able to support each other and build up from the bottom, rather than people at the top who have all the money and throw pennies at us.
okay. I know what you mean. I just feel like, I mean, we do need more things, legal ways to get through, make it easier. But
Mm-hmm.
hmm,
Yeah, that's. I was gonna say that's a good question. Do you know an immigrant? Like, have you met an immigrant? Like, really? Like, I want you to just like meet my dad. Like, meet him. Like, he'll bore you probably very quickly. Um, and like, I don't know. Like, he's very just very non-threatening. Like, I don't like. He's just a boring, like this Jesus loving engineer who has very thick glasses and just like, you know what I mean? Like, reads his Bible for fun. Like, that's literally all he does. Like, very scary immigrant. And I've also mentioned guys because there's tea in my family. There's tea in my family. I have an uncle who was deported. So but we have the best and worst of both worlds. If you fuck around in America, you can get in trouble. And my uncle experienced that. And his kids are here in the States and they don't have a strong relationship with their dad. Like he has family who are facing the consequences of his actions. Like that sucks. You know what I mean? But the rest of my family, like, and they're like, my dad has a lot of siblings too. All of them are here and they're fine. Have families, jobs. You know what I mean? Um, and the same with my mom's side of the family. Um, but yeah, like we can. Yeah, I've mentioned before. I have very complicated feelings about America and immigration and also like, but yeah, it's just people just don't get it. They don't get it. They don't get it. Okay, how would I start to do that, and what's the end goal? Education. I'm pretty sure you're referring to my kind of ending religious extremism and education conversations. Um, hopefully, at least to start. I have worked on getting. Thank you, thank you. I work with people trying to get their citizenship, like I mentioned, trying to like test people in my family. Um, and as I'm testing, you know, when I was much younger, I'm like sitting there testing my family members for the test to become an American citizen, and they're like, and I'm like, I don't know these answers. I don't know this shit. It's hard. It's hard to become a citizen. And I'm not saying that it should be like very easy or something like that. I don't know if I can state that. But being compassionate for the process is important. That's what I'm saying. What's up?
Hey, what's up?
Nothing much.
Have you heard of the sickness or disease, I guess? I don't know what it is, disorder called autogynephilia?
The disorder. I don't think that it is. It is not a classified condition. I do know what you're talking about. It's more of a like proposed idea of a diagnosis, to my understanding, but it has not been like recognized officially. But yes, I do know what it is.
Yeah, so it's basically men who like to dress up like women.
That's it was far more complicated than that. But if you want to reduce it to that, then sure.
Well, cis men get sexually turned on by dressing up like a woman.
Well, yeah, that is yeah,
So I'm just wondering,
still. But yeah, I get the idea. What about it?
do you think any of these men, like the trans men or trans women, get sexually turned on by that?
That I don't know, and I
I
think it's
mean,
like it's also like none of our business. Like for example, I don't know if you've ever like I don't know like read erotica. Like for example, but like there are like women who will like get put on lingerie and look at themselves and be like get excited because of that. Like does that make them an auto? I don't know like something because they find themselves hot or like I'm
well,
curious.
are you trans
Mhm.
person? So you seem like a normal person, right? But when I look at
What does
other,
that mean?
yeah, well, when I seeing some other people on here, they're not so normal.
That doesn't
They
matter.
they can't like
You don't have to be normal to be like to be respected, for
Yeah,
example.
but I'm
Like if you're
saying,
just like, oh, you're weird, so I don't like you or I don't want to respect you, I don't think that that matters.
but it's but when you
Like,
look at this
how do
person,
you know that I'm not weird? How do you know I'm not a freak?
well,
You know what I mean?
because
You're making this assumption about me.
you're not
I
wearing
could be a
lips,
freak.
you're
I'm
not
a they
wearing
them.
lips. Like when I
You know what
look
I
at,
mean? I could go put some lipstick. I have lipstick.
yeah, but and I'm
I've
sure you,
eyeshot like
and when you put the lipstick on, I'm sure you're gonna put it on perfectly. But these other people, they put it on like way past their lip line, like,
so people who
and
are
they
bad
look,
at makeup. Like,
yeah,
what is
they're
this
very
about?
bad at makeup. Their eye makeup
Okay,
looks ridiculous. It looks like makes them look like a clown, and I feel very sorry for them. Like they have mental
okay,
illness. Like they maybe are associating with trans
okay. So
people, but they're
you said a
not
lot
really.
of different things. So you said that they first put on makeup badly, and
Yeah.
that does putting on makeup badly mean that you have a mental illness? Like, where's the mental illness part that comes
Well,
into it? You're kind of all over the place, by the
my
way.
dad once told me growing up, if you can tell a crazy woman by how much makeup she puts on, but
Okay.
you know, and I found that to be true in my life. Like crazy women seem to wear a lot of eyeliner and a lipstick that goes past their lip line.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Um, Yeah, so that's an interesting idea. Like, for example, like I've heard, like, actually, you know, you might be right because Peterson, I heard him say that women put red lipstick on to arouse men, and that's the only reason why they do it. So I'm pretty sure that that's the same thing. They're connected ideas, and that it's very accurate what you just said, and it's like a true fact.
Yeah, like when you see like a psychopath or a crazy person in a movie and they're looking in the mirror and they're putting on lipstick all and they keep putting it around their lips like they're crazy, like, you
Yes,
know,
yes,
those people are making trans people look bad, you know. I
right. And like
even
not playing into like societal tropes or anything. Like just out of nowhere, these things are seen as crazy and relate directly to real life people. Like this is a little ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie.
all right.
Because like I'm not here to play games about which types of trans people deserve to be respected. Like that's not my
No,
game.
I'm just saying that I don't believe that all people who claim that they're trans are actually trans.
And like
I mean,
so like what does that matter? Like
well,
are you out here kind of like are you the person who's like
that matters
assessing
in terms
people?
of the
You're like,
bathroom thing.
are you worthy of my pronoun
Well, it
usage?
matters
Is
in
that
terms
where you're
of
at?
the bathroom argument, right? Because the bathroom, we don't want these crazy men, cis men wearing dresses and crazy lipstick and makeup going in the bathroom. You can go to whatever bathroom you want, but like a crazy person,
How did I earn the
because you're actually sane. You're
This
sane.
is
Like
crazy. And
you're.
like does this not seem crazy to you that and like once again, you are making all these assumptions about me.
I
Like
wouldn't like.
I could be crazy and like I could, you know, be a freak and like want to
Yeah,
go to
but
the
I've
bathroom to
listened to
look
you
at
talk and
girls
I've
and
heard
like
you
look under
talk
the
before.
stalls and look at girls while they're putting their tampons in or something. Like what if I wanted to do that? Hmm?
Yeah, but I've
And you
heard you
don't know.
talk before,
And
and
you're
you seem.
telling me to go and harass women in the bathroom. Like you don't know me.
Yeah, but
And
I
like there
do.
could be
But
a person who looks real crazy, but all they want to do is go in there and piss and then leave with their crazy ass makeup.
a lot of times, like when you look at someone and judge them, you're usually right. I mean, I don't think that you
Have you
do
never
that type
heard
of
"Don't
stuff.
judge a book by its cover"? Like, have you never heard that? Like,
Yeah,
that's like a whole thing because
that's
people
like a fairy
oftentimes make
tale
false
though.
judgments on people. You know, people oftentimes make false judgments about people because it's very hard to know how a person is without like having what they call a conversation with them.
So if I had a kid going into the bathroom, I would be okay with them going in with you in there. But
Oh God.
if someone was in there with like lipstick all over their face, their dress is all, they got a crooked wig on their head, I'm thinking, no, I don't want my kid to go in with that person. So, you need to look
It's
at
very,
least.
very interesting criteria. And I think that, for example, like this plays into society's fear on like gender nonconformity. If people don't like look like if they look very in between of a gender, or if they look kind of like extreme opposites of gender, like wear loud makeup like and a beard or something like that, people feel very, very uncomfortable with that. and that discomfort is almost translated into a lack of safety. And I think that that's very inappropriate, because I think that just because someone is different and their difference like causes maybe an emotional response within us, I don't think that it's appropriate to maybe say that this person is now scary or a threat to me, which I think is maybe almost the line that you're taking right now. Because you said that this person who has bad makeup and a crooked wig is not safe to be around children. I'm wondering, why do you think it is that you're making this connection?
Because people with mental health problems can't put makeup on properly. Anyone without a mental problem would be able to look in the mirror and put their wig on straight instead of all crooked and
I
backwards.
don't. How do you? Okay, have you ever put on makeup?
No, I'm a man.
Okay, and that's exactly how I know that you have no fucking clue what you're talking about. Because if
No,
you
I do. I look
makeup
at
is a
women and
skill. Like
some
makeup
women
is a
have makeup.
skill. Like people
Makeup
learn
looks
makeup over
beautiful.
the years. Like they can be bad at it and then get improve. It's called learning a skill. So like yeah, some people can be really bad at their makeup and then they can improve over time. You get that? Like
Yeah, but like literally like a centimeter past their lip line, making them look like a clown. Like,
I've do you know like Kim Kardashian? I'm pretty sure they were the ones who made lip like overlining their lips a thing popular. So is I
no,
mean I don't
yeah,
know
but
Kim
if it
Kardashian's
looks
what
good,
mental
that's
illness Kim
fine. But I'm
Kardashian
talking
has.
about like literal clown face on and saying I can't be the way I want to be, and they're all complaining. Like, I get it, but like, I people can do what they want to do, I guess. But I'm thinking that trans people are like getting looked at badly based on these people who are not fully trans. I don't believe they're trans. I believe they're uh,
I think what it is I
autogynephiliacs.
think that it's people who are uncomfortable with gender nonconformity are very uncomfortable with people who are loud about their gender nonconformity, and that makes them resistant to gender nonconformity altogether. I think that's what it is. It's not
Yeah.
that I'm going to accept you because you are the right kind of trans. It's that this is really really loud and it freaks me out. And if anything is related to this, I don't want to do anything with it. I don't want to accept it. I think that's more of what's happening.
Yeah, like I'm older, so I grew up in a time when if you were a man putting on a dress, putting lipstick on, all crazy, backwards wig, walking down the street, hey, how's it going? Like, you literally would be put into a mental hospital.
And like, do you think that's a good? Like, do you think that that's a like that's
And
appropriate?
I
Like,
think it is because they need help. They need
okay, so
help.
this is what I mean. You're coming back to it. You're coming back to it. You're coming back to the fact that gender nonconformity is a mental illness. Is that what you believe?
No, I believe that people with mental illness pretend to be trans for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay, then okay, because
Autogynephilia.
that's very different from saying if someone's walking down the street with like makeup
You're
that I think
trans
is
and you're
clown
normal,
makeup,
right? Yeah.
you understand how that's like you're saying very different things.
But you're trans and you're normal. You're a normal
How do you know?
person.
How do you know?
Because I can see you and you look normal.
And I feel like that's like once again, like I don't think that you even understand what you're talking about. Like
Yeah, like, okay,
you're
so
making these like once again,
I can
all
tell
this
you were
is
born a
in
woman
like
and you have a beard,
once
right?
again,
But you're
once again,
actually normal.
once again, once again, this is it's all about judgments and perceptions.
Yeah,
Your judgments of me, your judgments of those other people, and what you
exactly.
think about who we are as people, not
Yeah,
what you know. This is not
right.
what you know, it's what you
But we should
assume.
judge. Like. There's a reason why people don't pick their nose and eat it, and when right because like some kids they pick their nose and eat it, and the other kids would make fun of them. And that's what would teach them not to do that. So like getting bullied, getting made fun
Okay,
of, having living in this world where you don't want anyone to judge you is it's
okay.
unattainable and it's unrealistic.
So are you
Be
saying that gender
judged.
nonconformity should be judged and
Yes,
bullied?
it should be judged for sure.
Okay, so here we are. Okay, so here we are. This is where I kind of wanted to get. So, what is so bad? What is so dangerous? What is so negative about gender nonconformity? You have just stated that gender nonconformity in itself is like twisted
Yeah.
some way. Why?
Well, because there are only two genders. That's So that's why, judge,
That doesn't.
sorry,
I don't think that answers the
conformity.
question.
Conformity is what we need. We don't need non-conformity. We need to, like, back in the 50s or
You're
40s,
saying the what, but you're not saying the why. Like
like, you know
why?
how back in the 50s where men wore a suit and a black hat and they all dressed the same?
That never existed though. Like that is an illusion. Like, do you know that gender nonconforming people have always existed? As long as there have been humans, there have been gender nonconforming people.
But what you saying it never existed? There was a time like around the 40s and 50s where men all wore suits.
They
Even
no. What I'm trying to tell you is that
homeless
even in
guys
the
would wear a suit.
50s, what I'm trying to tell you is that even in the 50s, is that there were people who were trans. Maybe they were like hidden or like they were
No,
like more in secret or
if you
something
were
like
trans,
that.
you'd be in a mental hospital during that time.
I don't even necessarily think that that's always 100% true.
You'd be hiding it.
Like yeah, well, I would agree with the hiding it part. Yeah,
So
likely.
yeah, so you'd
And
be hiding it,
and
or
like
you'd
for
be.
example, and like you're like that's a good thing. We should go back to that.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so like also do you think that like people who are like homosexual should also go back to the closet because that is also gender nonconformity?
They should. I think it's a choice, and it's a something that you should not do.
Is it a
Right?
sin? Were you gonna say that?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you
Okay, well
should.
that see that makes so much sense. So much sense because like typically this type of stuff is illogical and when it comes to like it being a sin, the concept of sin is illogical, so that makes so much more sense why you have this position. Because like there's nothing that's like logical to support this because we from like for example from a biological standpoint the existence of gender nonconformity homosexuality all this stuff is well supported by the existence of these phenomena not just in humans but in other mammals other primates for example.
So I have a
um
question. Do you think that gay people have to have sex, or can they be gay and not have sex?
like yes like yeah you do not have to like nobody I mean
No,
okay I
sorry,
would say that it
sexual
depends.
attraction. Sexual attraction.
Okay,
Do you have to be gay? Do you have to have sexual attraction to the other person?
yes
Or
to
to
be
the same
yes
sex, I mean?
being gay has to be yes so yes you have to be
Yeah.
sexually attracted but like you don't have to like for example if you were like too young or something like that but you are gay like it does like just because you haven't had sex it doesn't mean you're not gay.
Yeah, but if you're 6 years old, are you saying that 6-year-olds have sexual attraction to one another? Because I heard some of these gay guys that say that they knew they were gay since they were 6.
So like I would say like a lot of children even in when they're 5 and 6 can have some semblance of an understanding of like I am playing house with this person and I'm the mommy and you're the daddy. But like other like I've talked to other people who like played house when they were really young, but they're like, I want another mommy and not a daddy. They didn't really understand why, but they were just more drawn to that.
Yeah,
Not
that's
necessarily in
different.
like a sexual way, but in that young what's an age appropriate attraction level, not anything weird. Like I think there are levels to it.
Yeah, so
Do you
like,
understand where I'm coming from?
yeah, but I don't think that's gay. I mean, you're just like playing as a child. Wanted to be a Ninja Turtle.
I understand that, but I'm saying like when you're like you're right. For example, like if a little girl wants to be a mommy and also have another mommy in the house, that doesn't mean that she's going to be gay when she grows up. You are correct, but that could be an early manifestation. It could be for that person.
Yeah, so basically it is sexual though, right? When they teach it in the schools, that it all comes down to the fact that eventually they want to have same sex.
When we're I'm gonna like move this into the adult section. Like when we're talking about adults, tip like for most adult humans, when they are with another person, they would like to have sex with them. Asexual people exist, so there are some people who are
Yeah,
asexual
but
and
my
gay,
point is teaching it in
and are
schools.
satisfied.
The point I'm getting to is teaching it in schools is wrong because kids don't even know what gay is until they're actually grown up and adults. They don't even want to have sex. What age do you want to have sex at? Like, you're not 6 years old and wanting to have sex. I
That
was.
is very true. But so okay, so with that kind of logic, then it's like then we don't teach. Then we shouldn't teach any. What's that called? We shouldn't teach any sex ed at any age. Like
No,
that logic
when they
doesn't
get to
track.
the sexual age, you should teach them the proper way to have sex, which would be male and female, not go have all this sexual
So
immorality
I
for
think that that
real.
idea is wrong. I don't think that there's a proper way. I would say that there is, like, for example, like if you
Man
would
and
like to have
woman can have a
reproductive
child.
sex, yes, there is one specific way to have reproductive sex. Yes, that is, I would say that's accurate. But there's not one accurate way to have like romantic sex.
No,
That to me
there's
is way more
no, there's
expressive,
people putting
way more
bananas
broad.
up their butts and all sorts of weird stuff. Doesn't mean that it's right. Like,
So like do you know that like heterosexual couples can still do butt stuff, right? Like they still do butt
yeah,
stuff.
and it's wrong. I believe that having sex outside
Okay.
of marriage is wrong.
No, like married people.
Yeah,
Like
but
so if a married couple does butt stuff, you think that's wrong?
it's in the Bible that it's a sin.
I
Yeah.
think that that's sad, but okay.
That's a sin. Why would you want to put in? First of all, why would you want to put anything in your butt? It's an out hole only. It's for
I
poo
mean,
to come out.
if I need
It's
to
like,
explain this
why
to
would
you,
you want
then
to put your sensitive genitals inside an area where poo sits? Like, think about that. That's
yeah,
disgusting.
then you just would need to do like research, I guess, because
No, that's just disgusting. Like, that's
yeah,
poo. Poo comes out of the hole, and you want it. You like that? You like that hole? It's really disgusting.
if I guess like if you don't know what hygiene is, then maybe I understand why you are really confused. But
Oh,
there
it
are
doesn't
ways to
matter.
perform
If you
hygiene.
shit, you can
So
shit on a plate, and clean that plate perfectly clean. I'm not gonna eat off that plate ever again because there has been shit on it at some point. That's how the
okay,
asses work too,
okay,
right?
okay, like
The asses were the same thing, like that butthole.
yeah.
The shit,
I'm
shit
like
has to
I'm just
go
like
on there.
yeah. I'm like yeah. If you like, for example, if you want to be restricted in your sexual life, then like go for it, I guess. But there are people who feel more free with their partners and they feel safe to explore all of their bodies, not just certain parts of their bodies. And yeah, have a
Yeah.
good time doing
Well, amen to that.
it. Amen to that is right. Ah, good God, guys. Good God. I definitely have to post this one because this one's fucking ridiculous, dude. Um, I knew it was gonna be bad from the beginning. From the AG. As soon as someone says autogynephile, I'm like, this is gonna be bad. But very interesting. You know what I mean? At least. And really, guys, I still to this day I feel like a deep level of sadness for like people who are in relationships and they feel restricted. Because like for example, like some people like they just don't know what they're missing, so they feel fine because they don't like if you're not missing any if you don't know what you're missing, then you kind of feel fine about it. But I'm sure that there are some people who are like, damn, there are some acts of the sexual nature that we cannot do. Like, I just feel bad, really bad. And like, yeah, yeah. If you're like an asexual person, you're not going to care, for example. And I also want to reiterate again the weird part. Like, I want to be so against this idea of like, let's find out which trans people are the acceptable type. You're the acceptable type of trans person. I don't know. I'm not. Nope. We're not playing this fucking game because it's not a game. It's not a game. These are people, and you don't get to decide because of your judgments what people are or what they can do or where they go or whatever. Okay. Right. What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Okay. What's up? Pretty good. How are you?
I don't even know what to say after
Well, you got anything to say?
that. That's a tough follow.
I mean, it depends. Maybe it depends on your perspective, but You got any thoughts?
Originally, I'd post that ad. Now I can't even talk. Originally, I'd requested up here about your background.
Okay.
Because the minority of both sides, but I think it's 80% of the people want to get to the same place, just have a different view on how to get there.
Okay. And perhaps, but I also think that people have like fundamentally different perspectives. I mean, okay, actually, like if you want to say like we all want like a better life, but we all want different ways to get there, something like that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Like, now don't get me wrong, I do believe that there's about 20% on each side that no matter what you do, will just never agree.
Okay.
Like, I guess you call them your far right and your far left. And I hate to say it, but the other 80% of both sides disagree with them too on a
Okay.
lot of stuff. But I think the empathy part gets mixed. It's not that people on the right don't have empathy. It's more of people on the right don't want nobody taking care of them and don't think, if that makes sense.
And I would, so like for example, I'm not saying that the right doesn't have any empathy. To me, I'm saying like the way that they apply their empathy seems misguided or something. Like for example, to say that you would want a better world but you don't want to be helped is illogical to like humanity. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, what I mean, not that people don't want to be helped. It's more of a, how do you say it? It's more of a, I guess you'd go from like a political point of view, is they don't want it. The right thinks more on the lines of it's not the government's job to take care of people.
And then
That's
it's like,
more of a community thing. Like, I live down on the coast, down in
mhm,
Mississippi. After Katrina hurricane a couple of years ago, uh, you saw everybody, banding together and helping each other out.
okay,
And that's more, I believe, what the right is about, is as far as empathy goes, where if you're in their community, you help each other out. But at the same time, it's not this community's, I guess, job to come in and take care of that community and tell them what to do. If they want to do this, that's what's best for them. Okay. If that makes sense.
so like I guess the one issue that we have is like a lot of like a park, like going to a park is a government affair. You understand, like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
no, I get what you're
community
saying.
efforts are oftentimes government efforts or are supported by oftentimes. And like and also and the other part as well is, and this part also I think is very interesting, is that I would say that there are a lot of people on the left who would say the exact same thing in terms of like help like create like small groups of people where you can help each other and support each other, like that like screams like leftist to me, which is interesting because I would feel like on the right would maybe be from like the structural, like what is that called, capitalistic structure says like your family, like the patriarchal family structure takes care of itself, like that's your community more
Yeah,
often than not, and then maybe your church could be extended from that perhaps, but that's like very conservative. If I, that's a very conservative perspective, I would be, if I would say. What do you think about that?
No, I agree with that, and I agree with a lot of, like, don't get me wrong, I agree with a lot of leftist policies, but and a lot of people on the right do. The problem is like healthcare. I
You
absolutely
don't want healthcare for everyone. Like that's
no, I absolutely wish they could, but I also know our government has, in my opinion, name. Can you name one thing that our government has ever made better? One
um
government that's not a nightmare of, and the realist in that comes out. Like, yeah, it'd be great, but oh dear Lord, do we really want the United States government in charge of our health care?
and I understand what you're talking about, but I would have to say, like, when you look at some things, like there are a lot of things that have improved over time. A lot of things that have improved over time. Like for example, the government, like getting disability rights for people who are disabled to allow for them to either work and get accommodations for work or to get like
Oh,
help from the government to survive on their
no,
own,
I'm not.
for
I'm not
example.
talking about a right. I'm talking about a government agency. Name one government agency that's not a mess. Is what I mean.
Well, that I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can do that because government is messy.
Yeah, and that's
So
where a lot of the issue comes from the right and the left. Is
okay.
the right, a lot of it's just realism. Yeah, that would be great, but that puts our government in charge of it, and they can't budget. If you give them $10 million, they spend 40.
Okay. And I think that one thing I would say is that probably the realism is perceived as like heartlessness. Like you're maybe allowing like logistics to get in the way of like lives, perhaps.
You know, because I hate to say it, but the only example that you could look at for government health care in America would be the VA system. That's the closest thing to a example we could, say, oh dear Lord, this is what our health care would look like. Because that is basically government run health care.
Oopsie, sorry. Yeah. And I'm not going to say that it's like great or anything. Yeah. And for example, I'm also not someone who's going to say that um the way that like general public health or kind of we can see that it's messy in other countries as well, in our country and in other countries. Like it's not perfect.
And don't get me wrong, I realize it would never be perfect and it
Right.
would be expensive because all the other countries that you would use as an example have what, a third of our population.
Something like that there. Yeah. Smaller.
And so America can't really be compared just due to the size, population, and you know what works in a lot of countries that you look at and go, wow, that would be great. Could just
Right.
would be a lot harder to make work.
And here's another kind of issue that I have, I guess, with something is like traditionally, maybe on the more like conservative side, there are some people who those people would like maybe who they would like consider more community than other people than the left would consider a community. What I mean, like for example, is like if there's a group of like yeah like for example like trans people who like need protection from for some type of a reason, like would a conservative community rally against them and give them the support that they needed, or they just ignore them and leave them onto the side? Like that's the other part of this that starts to get confusing. And like that, like immigrants for example, like if they need health care, if people on the right are like, I don't want to deal with that, like then the people on the left are like, they're our community as well, like even though they're immigrants, they're still our community, we should take care of them. So like what do you think about that part?
Immigration, and have mentioned this from the comments a few times, is a complete disaster from the ground up.
Okay.
Like I've helped friends try to go through that legal system,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a nightmare. I 100% understand why people say I just take my chances and come here illegally.
Yeah.
Because to start with, to become a citizen, it should not cost $10,000 to $15,000 for
True.
somebody trying to get a better life. If you can afford that, you probably could live a pretty good life where you're at.
True.
It wouldn't be leaving.
Right.
And so, to me, from the ground up, that our immigration system is almost as bad as our welfare system, as far as it helps people, but I also feel like it traps people.
Okay.
You know, if you get a job, you're penalized. Now, you go get a job that you don't make nowhere near enough money, but you're trying to improve your life. Now, let's take away all the benefits. That way, you get less money. So, in my opinion, what needs to happen, I would be perfectly okay with our welfare system being a temporary thing where you get some sort of trade school, whether it be in something, not a bunch of, dumb courses that ain't gonna help, but like nursing, get a lot of stuff that you're guaranteed to be able to, make money on.
Okay.
I would rather pay somebody's to
So
live.
like you're literally saying to expand welfare programs to make them
Yeah,
more
to do,
extensive.
yeah, because in my opinion, what they do now prevents you from getting off of it, which in turn keeps a lifelong burden on taxpayers. I would rather have a huge small time burden that you will help me pay back because you will have a good job and be able to take care of yourself. Thus, meaning you would get more tax money
Mm-hmm.
than what we've got now that punishes you and, promotes not improving yourself
And
because
I
you get trapped in it.
definitely would not disagree that there are significant issues. And like I would also like I might have like I would maybe tweak some of the ideas that you have or something, but generally I would agree like being able to actually kind of teach the man to fish, kind of with that quote instead of
Hmm.
just giving him fish, kind of that idea.
Yeah.
Because and then but then we have to talk about the fact there are structural issues in our country that cause people to be in these situations, and that if we
Now,
ah like
now I
race, like
agree.
racial disparities and stuff, and then that's why some of those social programs are in place to help cut some of those out of the way. But then you're like, well, no social programs because then that's cheating. But then it's like we're trying to fix the disparities.
See,
Like you know
but
what I
that's
mean?
if you go with something like I'm talking about, I believe that would solve both of them. Like the way the internet goes anymore, like with colleges, me personally, I think they should just take race 100% off the thing and go straight up by test scores, and they get who they get. I mean, we've already got student numbers. You don't even have to have a name anymore.
And like I said, it's that's where it kind of gets confusing because if like if you're trying to help kind of even out the getting the playing field evened, and if some
Hmm.
people structurally have a difficult time even getting like their name or their scores into the field, we're trying to say like let's actually help people get their scores even into the
And
I guess to the
you
light
see,
to be seen rather than having them be invisible where they would have been otherwise. And also, I'm not going to
and
say that
that's
there's not
where I
complexities or
think
issues with it or something, but overall,
that's where I think if different, it goes into where it gets looked at as a lack of empathy. I'm 44 years old.
Okay.
Would you believe politics have the exact same talking points as when I was 18?
I mean, hey, I'm not that surprised.
And so the fact is, a lot of the right are like, what we've been doing, just throwing more money at it is not fixing the problem. It's time to take a step back, look at the, like, kind of like everybody up in arms about the, what is it called? The Board of the Education, uh, where I guess Trump was talking about dismembering it or whatever.
Yeah.
And to a lot of people, they're like, well, this has been going on. People been ranting and raving about education since it got funded in the 70s
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Maybe it's time to take a step back and actually, rather than just keep throwing money at something that's not working and not fixing the problem, take a step back and actually fix the problem. And now, do I think Trump is the answer to all of America's problems? God, no. Matter of fact, there's a lot of times that I've been like, matter of fact, I don't even think he'd be the president right now if, I hate to say it like this, but if the left hadn't went after him so hard, it's kind of like they martyrized him.
Like, okay.
Because you
Okay.
look at the primaries when it first started, he was losing in every one of them. Then
Okay.
court cases started popping up. They started doing
Okay.
this, that, the other, and it made it look like everybody was going after him. And then people start with that. Well, man, if they're going after him that hard, there must be a reason that they don't want. He must really be trying to fix stuff.
Okay. Which, whatever. But yeah, I would agree that martyr thing is I would agree that is a yes. He did kind of take advantage of that.
To me, it's like framing a guilty man is what happened. And then everybody focused on the framing, and then he got off because they were like, well, no, look, you planted this evidence. Well, look at all this
Oh, I see
other
what you
stuff. Look at all this other stuff that he actually did. Well, no, we can't believe you now because you planted this evidence.
Okay, I see. I definitely see where you're coming from, and yeah, that is just big. Yeah, I think it's just a big mess, just because.
But I also don't think as long as there's a right and a left conversation that I think the government has done a good job of the politicians on the right keep you focused on, well, the left wants to do this, whereas most people, it's what I said, 80% of both sides, if they actually sat down and had a civil conversation, would agree on 90% of policy, or at least come down to a arrangement where both sides would be happy. Because, like, I don't think me and you probably 100% agree on not much, I would probably guess.
Probably.
But at the same time, we're having a civil conversation and we are both agreeing with each other a lot more than you would think.
Right, because I think that like at the end of the day, I think people want to feel better, like people want to have better lives, and I do agree. I guess I like coming all of this kind of coming back to the beginning where you were saying like we want similar things but different ways of how to get there.
Mhm.
I see where you're coming from, and then at the same time, I feel like I also see how some of the things I feel like are very like at odds with each other.
Mhm.
Yeah, can't like be yeah. Um, but also, yeah, I personally am interested in just like hearing from other people and trying to see why people think the way that they do, and yeah, seeing what that does.
And I think a lot of people get lost on talking points
I agree.
because, and a lot of people look at a headline anymore, and the internet is the worst about this headline of, take horrible thing, and then you read the article and it's got very little to do with what the headline even said.
Hmm. Yeah.
But they saw the headline, and this was the story on news. When you read the article, none of that, and both sides have a horrible habit of, how do you say this, taking the lowest percentage of a possibility of something happening and turning the focus on that.
Okay.
Like the right, which it's one of my pet peeve arguments because it drives me nuts. I'll even go ahead and start on my own. We'll start with like the bathrooms.
Okay. I think I know where you're going. I think yeah, go ahead.
I have never once in my life walked into a bathroom and asked somebody to, pull down their pants and let me inspect what you are.
Right. Okay.
Matter of fact, I don't think I've said more than a nod walking through and don't rightfully care one way or other. But now there's a chance somebody could, do something inappropriate, and now that is the focus.
Okay.
And and that falls into, where I think the right gets a lot of things for not having any empathy, because while they're focused on actually the fear of something bad happening, while I disagree with it, I understand that they're not trying to be assholes to transgender, but when you go in and make it out like this is just rampant all over the country, women and kids being abused in public bathrooms, and both sides do it on different things, whereas they both take a small percentage and stroke fear over the whole topic.
Okay. Yeah, I could agree. I could agree because I was talking about that a little like last week, a little bit. Like yeah, like I've heard people say like maybe go very far,
Mm-hmm.
uh like being like if like Trump threatens to dismantle the Board of Education, and that means that all schools are going to be only conservative forever, like something like
Yeah.
that, where they make it the exact opposite of maybe the most extreme version of something. For example, um, I would say that that's like and I would say that that's I don't know, something that is like a fear trait. Like people get really afraid, and then that fear is amplified by their surroundings. And I think that we get into these little pockets and communities, and we, talk at each other and stuff like that, and try to. Sometimes I think when we try to add concern and like try to
Mm-hmm.
help people to understand how concerned we are, I think the fear mongering happens like by accident.
And it's kind of like religions in schools. To some degree, I don't think you can teach history without sampling into multiple religions. I mean, that'd be like trying to, what is it? The Odyssey without studying Greek mythology.
Gotcha. No, I know what you mean.
And
And I guess which is interesting because do you think that?
now,
Because I think that's similar, like about race, because I feel like race is a really important part of like human history. It's hard to ignore race, and it's hard to ignore religion as well. I think that they're both active parts of it.
it's hard to ignore race. And where I run into a thing with school is, how do you teach history, in my opinion? And this would be a problem I think teachers run into. How do you teach history without, how do you say it, dividing the next generation? If that makes sense.
I think just being accurate and honest about what
Yeah.
happened is the best part. Yeah, and And I think, yeah, just also just stop making weird. I think there are some things that people say that are really weird. Like if someone says like you owe things to a black person, like that's a very ambiguous statement that doesn't
Yeah,
really have a lot of like people don't know what to do with that. So maybe telling a kid that might be not super helpful, but just saying like when it came to like getting people to treat other people as slaves, dehumanizing them, and kind
hmm
of considering their race as something significant and making that into a thing was a huge part into why this was successful. Like that's an important thing to teach, so we can just actually know what actually happened, and then they can kind of make their people make assumptions and judgments either way, regardless of what the truth is. Um,
because all
yeah,
you have to know to learn racism is a taught behavior is take a bunch of 5-year-olds to the park,
that's true.
and 3 seconds into it, they're all best friends. It
Oh
don't
yeah,
matter.
but yeah,
It don't
and
matter.
yeah, there are interesting studies that say that even some like negative racial biases can be in place even that early.
No,
Um,
I mean,
but
yes,
yeah,
but I mean,
but younger kids, yeah,
yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's learned, absolutely.
And I think the biggest problem with the country right now is too many people have drank the political Kool-Aid.
Okay.
That, there's this huge divide. Half of the country hates the other half, when the fact of the matter is, most people don't feel that way. Now
Hmm.
there are minorities in the group, but America has got the biggest problem with focusing on the smallest minority of and giving them the biggest voice. Like it's like a tornado hitting a trailer park. The news is going to find the dumbest person that lives there, and that's who's going on TV every
Okay.
time. And whereas most people don't feel like the people that seem to have the loudest voice.
Okay. And I mean, yeah, like yeah, there's a lot of people who are like loud and wrong or something like that,
Yeah.
and
And that's what
yeah,
gets focused on.
okay.
Like, what was, what was, there was a protest that had nothing to do with, and this was years ago. It was some protest that had nothing to do with what, but for some reason there were a bunch of supremacists there. And literally out of like the 100,000 people that were there was a group of like 30 people off to the side because nobody'd have anything to do with them. But every camera there was focused on that little group. And it totally washed over. Like, I don't even remember what the protest was about now, but I
To be
remember that.
fair, because pretty problematic. But yeah,
So I don't
um,
even remember if it was a good protest or a bad protest, but that's what got focused on.
yeah,
And
and like I said, very I guess yeah, like large, pretty problematic. So I feel like I get it why there is
and
such
but that is a lot of the problem with America anymore is the big picture gets cast to the side because 20 idiots show up.
at that part. I feel like that general aspect of generally like we can maybe get like have our yeah our politics like I don't know get like politics brained and just I don't know make it like lose sight of kind of everything other than I don't know seeing things from political perspectives and at the same time it's for some people it's challenging because politics is like the only way they can have like a little bit of agency in the world and they especially if they're like at a some type of a risk from some type of a policy or something like that
Mhm.
politics is everything and it has to be all up in their brain because you know
And
yeah like if you're like in a section with like poverty and like you're they're gonna like build some type of like a railway system through your neighborhood. Like you have to be political then. You can't not
Yeah,
before.
no, there,
So
but
there's a range. You know what
yeah,
I
a
mean?
lot of, but that's where the problem comes in my opinion, is when there is a good reason to protest something, like we'll take the police brutality protest a couple of years back
Okay.
that turned into, according to the media, BLM protest that burned down cities.
Okay.
Whereas you take a few bad people and now it's no longer about, the conversation is no longer about bad cops. It's about cities being stores being wrecked.
That's a good example.
And, you know, I've said quite often, if the act of the protest gets more conversation than what you're protesting, you need to stop and reevaluate because you're not getting your desired outcome. It's like that football player that
Okay.
started kneeling in during the anthem and the conversation protesting. It was about the protest itself, the act of the protest, not what you're protesting.
Okay. Okay. I see what you mean. Like making the process of the protest more important than like the
Yeah.
content. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
How you're doing it is talked about more than what you're doing it for. And when it turns into that, people need to take a step back and realize people aren't getting mad about what you're protesting. The problem is what you're protesting is not the messages you're getting received. When how you do it overdoes what you're saying, your message is not being received. Now, I understand you want to bring attention to it, but when you get more attention about what you're doing and nobody even knows why you're doing it, because so much of the conversation is how you're doing it, it's counterproductive, in my opinion. And instead of saying people don't care about that, maybe it's not the people don't care about it, it's what you're doing is getting more attention than how you're doing it. I mean, how you're doing it is getting more attention than why.
Okay. And I'm definitely gonna say like um being able to, I guess, recognize that like sometimes your actions are going to be perceived a specific way by some other people, and I think that maybe this is some places where I have some I just like issues because like sometimes it's like it's about like perception and like about like how the media decides to kind of communicate about something rather than what actually has occurred. um and I guess it's yeah, it's tough to always be I guess super influenced by what people think
Mm-hmm.
because like yeah, I see where you're coming from. You know, I can be sympathetic to it.
And I think a lot of issues would disappear in this country if people would take a step back and a breath.
That I can.
But rather than because I've noticed a lot on TikTok, you go to say something, and before you've even finished your statement, you have four people talking over you, telling you you're wrong, and they don't even know what you're
Right.
saying.
Yeah. And so that's something that I do hope that people can be, and I would say that that's a like, and not only, but definitely something on the left that I see a lot is a lot of like different people thinking that their opinions are really important. And like, I understand why you think your opinions are really important. And I think that is important, but also like doesn't do very well for like talking to people like other humans.
Yeah, because
So
I
that's
mean,
the tough part.
because I imagine I've said a lot of things that when I first started saying it, you thought probably going a totally different way than when it ended up.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And there's a lot of TikToks that I'd have never got past the first statement before, I'm just like, let me know when I can talk again, and maybe I'll finish the sentence.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying. That generally being able to slow down,
Mm-hmm.
um, possibly reconsider it when applicable, might be important. And I think making your like political efforts more effective, like
Yeah.
regrouping, is an important idea. So very cool. Well, thanks for chatting today. You got any other thoughts or ideas?
No, about run my mouth enough, I think.
Much appreciated. Thanks for having a
You
good one.
you have a good day.
Yeah, you as well. Okay. So I'm trying to see if this was this person who was being a dick. And I only have like a little bit of time as well. So, um, okay. Hold on. The right has empathy, right? Right. And I'm not saying that they don't have empathy, which I don't, yeah, which I think that they do have empathy, but I think that it's, like I said several times, like misapplied, or like narrow sometimes, like empathy for specific people. Like, I mentioned the immigration thing a lot because I feel like that's a very emotionally provocative thing for the right, for example, and like um it's actually, well, it's provocative for both sides for different reasons, but the fear part of it I think is really important. It's like this is a threat, and because I'm afraid of it, like I want to be protective of my fellow Americans, so I'm having empathy for, like, for example, you flash up like dangerous immigrants are coming in and hurting your whatever, and it's like girl is stalked at night, and like man found with weapon and stuff like that, and it's like, oh no, I'm very afraid, like this is very scary stuff. I'm empathetic towards my fellow American, so I'm going to be empathetic to you but not towards you because you're the enemy. And I'm like, okay, but what we're talking about, like practical application of what life is like in America, our neighbor, our community members are oftentimes immigrants, regardless of their status. And we can't be like, not necessarily we can't be, but I wonder what you think the practical applications are of being maybe suspicious and judgmental of like a significant part of your community. Interesting. But yeah. So what about the centrist parties? I have not made a judgment yet on them. Like I said, these are just my own silly opinions. Oh, and also I 000, all those zeros. I would actually really, not today because I have to go, but I would love to hear more about that. I do have a Discord server, so check it out, please. And if you have any thoughts about today, please let me know. But I'm curious about what you mean by microscope empathy, and like, for example, if you're saying like empathy towards the little guy, like little things or something, maybe I could see that. But I'm the type of person, my logic, right, is like you got to build a pyramid, but you got to start with a strong foundation. And in societies, like the little guy are the foundation. Like, how does the big guy eat? Because the little guy is working on the farm, so he can go into the grocery store and buy groceries. Like, for our environment to work, we need to be supportive of all the different people and all the different types of levels in work and stuff like that. We got to work together, not like I want these types of people to have a good life, but these types of people I don't really care. Like I don't see how that's going to be effective for how we make things work together. And like I said, I'm judgmental. I'm a very judgmental person, so I'm leaning into it, and like allowing the judgment to allow me to just be help me be more curious, and also sharing my ideas in a way that allows me to be not flexible necessarily, but it gives them room to change because I might change my mind. Um, yeah, because yeah, I don't want to, because like, for example, I need to say this. If I were to say that the right has no empathy, I am committing the dehumanization that I hate so much. And I'm not willing to do that because I don't believe that they're inhuman, because I believe that empathy is a very human trait that the majority, almost every single human, has the experience of empathy. It's very rare that humans don't have that experience at all, any type of empathy. And so I understand their humanity. So I'm saying you do have empathy, but my opinion of how you apply your empathy is like not cool. That's really all I'm saying. And I'm sure that there are a lot of other people who can help. Yeah. How is advocate? Oh, this is actually a great question, and I'll leave after this. How is advocating for equal rights for disenfranchised people an ego problem? That is not an ego problem in and of itself. That is a great thing. I think great for advocating for disenfranchised people. But I think that sometimes when it comes to arguing for those different types of groups of people, people can sometimes like moralize issues to the point where they do not allow for other people to like have conversation or to like even understand the perspectives of others. I've noticed, which I feel like could keep your brain narrow and can cause you to like not necessarily kind of dehumanize other people, like just because they're like you don't support this, so you're really evil. Like you're an evil person because you don't support this, like that type of thing. And I'm like, I'm not sure how that's useful for like, yeah, like having a peaceful life with your fellow man. And I'm not sure that that's what you're advocating for exactly. Maybe you're like, I don't necessarily want that. That's not my goal. Then I'm like, okay, we have different perspectives then. I guess, yeah, because even if you are, yeah, moving in the direction of wanting a better world, um, sometimes people are just like, yeah, I don't really care for caring for people's feelings on my path towards that. And I'm like, okay. Um, but yeah, um, like is I think it's a fear empathy issue. Anything else? I'm not tolerant for intolerant people. I was an intolerant person. I grew. I guess like we probably have a different opinion on that. Like I have so much tolerance for intolerant people because I was an intolerant person, and like I wasn't helped by people being a dick to me. Like that didn't help me at all. When people like just explain stuff to me with like, I mean, at the same time, I wasn't like a dick, so maybe that like was impactful. But like, yeah, the fact that people slowed down and like explained stuff to me and took the time to actually help me was important. And I'm willing to be that person for other people. And I definitely understand that some people are just not willing. They're like, I'm sick of it. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm tired. I'm fatigued. I don't have the energy. I'm like that. I got you. Um, but yeah, like I said, once again, please go ahead and join me on my Discord server as well as my YouTube channel. We've been random ass stuff we've been talking about, so many different things. We were just watching the Donahue show, a really old video of it, and I thought it was interesting. So uh, Chris Geek, look at that. I was like a baby 10 years ago, so not really. I was an adult. Was I? Oh my god. I was an adult 10 years ago, which is crazy to think about. That's crazy. Anyway, um, man, I just was, yeah, I feel like, yeah, I'm such a baby. I need to leave. I need to just leave like 10 minutes ago. You guys are really bad. Stop making me stick around. Join my Discord server or else you hate me specifically and you hate trans people actually. Actually, if you want to be a real trans ally, join my Discord server. Otherwise you hate trans people and then you're a bad person. Obviously, that's a joke. Please get my joke.